I'm Gary.
This is Austin.
And we are Midwest Mics coming back at you live from the Hy-Vee Arena, the UClick TV studios located right here in the historic Hy-Vee Arena. A number of events have taken place here over the years, and it is a fantastic venue, and we are glad to be here again. Big thing happened in Kansas City last night, so I'm going to let Austin kind of talk about that. He's the lifelong Chiefs fan, so he's going to kind of, with our open, talk about the Chiefs and what happened yesterday.
Well, I was going to say just what I've been saying all year is what happened. Chiefs make the Super Bowl. I was actually talking to Gary on the way over here. I really felt, even from the beginning of the year, I felt like this was a team that could make a run. We had the quarterback, we got the receiving core. Brett Veach, GM, when people were talking bad about the defense, he went out. We grabbed a different D coordinator, grabbed a bunch of different pieces like Frank Clark, like Honey Badger, some other guys, and they put it together. Got Coach Spags in here, and really the defense was kind of what held us back last year. I think everybody can kind of agree on that. And so basically put it together, and yesterday was a really nice performance. They did that thing again where they get behind. They get behind, and then they make some adjustments. And then it was I messaged you during the game and was like, man, I feel like Reid really – I mean, the players for sure outplayed, but I feel like Reid really outcoached Vrabel yesterday. And, no knock on Vrabel. He's a second-year guy. Mm-hmm. He's done a really good job in Tennessee kind of finding his quarterback and then figuring out, getting Derrick Henry. But they shut down Derrick Henry yesterday, and we kind of did the kind of – it was kind of cliche to talk about what they needed to do against the Titans, which was – forced Tannehill into some third and longs, which they did. Mm-hmm. And I think he had one interception, right? Tannehill did. It was one.
Yeah, I think he threw one. Yes.
But you got put in some third and longs, and then that's kind of when it broke down. Tannehill's kind of like the quarterback that he makes accurate throws, but he can't be. He's not Mahomes, right? Where the offense can rest on Mahomes and where they kind of run the ball to kind of get the pressure off Mahomes. So it really they did a really, really nice job yesterday. And now we have another tough challenge coming in the Super Bowl with San Fran. I thought San Fran played a really nice game yesterday too. Like we're saying, Garoppolo threw the ball how many times?
Eight times.
And they just ran the ball. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the time. So the Chiefs defense can step up again and force Jimmy G to throw, which Jimmy G's a better quarterback than Tannehill. We should be in for a really nice Super Bowl, and it actually should be probably a higher scoring Super Bowl. I think it will be. I think over-unders are at like 54.5 right now, which is pretty high.
Yeah, and the Chiefs opened at a 1.5-point favorite last night, once the second game was done. But, yeah, it's an amazing time to be in Kansas City, and our guest today is no stranger to winning championships, Coach Rick Byers. Been at St. Pius for over 30 years and been the head coach for over 20. Won 3 state titles in that time there, several. So, Coach, thanks for coming out today.
Thank you guys for having me. It's good to be on. It's always nice to come down here to Hy-Vee Arena. Just like you, I remember when this place used to jump with the old NAIA tournament and all that stuff. So it's neat to be down here, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, yeah. Always great to talk to, a guy that is a legend in our coaching community here in the area. And, obviously let's start and just talk about your take on the Chiefs.
Oh, I was floored. It was one of those things, just like Austin said. I had a feeling this year might be their year. I was devastated like most Chiefs fan last year, even thinking, hey, it might not happen in my lifetime, one of those deals. But we came back and all the changes we made, and you got to give it up to Clark, for just putting together just a great organization, just from the top to the bottom. And you can't imagine it happened to a better group of coaches and players as well. So I thought that was a huge win for Kansas City and a great job by Andy.
One thing we could say about Clark Hunt, and from what we've heard, is that he really does a good job of trying to figure out the guys that he wants to run the football team, and then he lets them run the football team. And I'm not saying this. I know you're a big Cowboys fan. I'm not trying to knock Jerry on that because Jerry does know some football.
Yep.
But Clark Hunt, as far as being a leader and as far as being an owner, I think he's done a really, really nice job as far as, like I said, just bringing in. The first time his first go around was when he brought in Pioli and Todd Haley and all those guys, and was basically trying to recreate the Patriots, which is not a bad blueprint to try to go with, but it didn't work that way. So his next stop was to find another leader with a proven track record, just like Andy Reid. And then from what you know about Andy Reid, everybody says they love playing for him, and they love coaching with them and everything. So the nice thing was last night is to see how you could feel that the players really want to get this for Andy.
Yeah.
Like you feel it. They say it, and you believe them. They don't just want to win it for themselves. They love their coach, which is always a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. And they just got some cats, man. It's just got some cats that just go play crazy. I mean, they play so hard all the time. I don't think there's been a team that I've witnessed like that the guys just seem to get after it all the time, and they never kind of put themselves in a position where they're not going to have an opportunity to win.
Well, one thing real quick that Jim Nantz told or said, I believe it was Jim Nantz, was that he impacts every player that he's ever coached, and that's beyond being at the Chiefs, Philadelphia, Green Bay, Mizzou. And you know what I mean? That's that. If you're a coach, and you can impact everybody, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, you know what, and that's your job as a coach is to make those guys feel part of the locker room, make them feel extra special. I always say the one thing is, the line coach, that's that guy. You got a bunch of guys who get no recognition, but you got to give them love, find a way to give them love and make them feel wanted and needed. And Andy Reid seems to do that with every position on the field.
Yeah, and you're a guy who's done that, for a long time in our community here in Kansas City with your players. And so let's go back, over 30 years ago, and let's talk about your start and your start in coaching.
Well, my first job when I first got out of college down at Pitt State, I played down there, and I graduated in '86. I did my student teaching at Fort Scott, Kansas, and that was my first stop. So, and I coached there, and then the next year I got I don't want to say lucky, but it kind of worked in my favor that my cooperating teacher was the PE teacher, and he was out golfing one day in a sunsuit and had a stroke, and I was actually fortunate enough that they were scrambling to find a teacher, and I got hired, and I got hired on as the head freshman coach then, and so it was a great opportunity. A gentleman named Danny Brown was the head coach and taught me so much about football, and so that was kind of where it began. And then the gentleman came back, and so then I had to find a new job. So I moved to Kansas City, and a gentleman named Dan Griggs, who was the head coach here for a while. He had been a defensive coordinator at Princeton and Northern Colorado, and he got the job here. Him and Sev were kind of both applying for Rockhurst at the time, and Sev got Rockhurst, and Coach Griggs, Dan got Pius, and so it kind of worked out that he stayed, and he had recruited me when I was at Paola in high school, and he saw that I was looking and gave me an opportunity, and it just kind of started from there. And so I was with him for a while, and just as the defensive coordinator and doing a little bit of everything, and it gave me an opportunity to. And when he finally decided to retire, I was given the opportunity to be the head coach, and just took it off from there.
Yeah, so in those kind of 8 years there as an assistant, what are some things that you took from him, and as a young coach when you're kind of figuring everything out, what are some things you remember from taking from him?
Well, coming from doing different things and being with different coaches, the first thing I remember is some guys that when I was at the Fort Scott, Coach Brown, he was one of those guys that he was the figurehead. He had an offensive defensive coordinator, a special teams coordinator, and he was the head of the Dragon. And then Coach Griggs was one of those guys who had his hand in everything. You barely got to coach unless you really showed that you were worthy. And so when I learned that whenever I was going to get an opportunity, I was going to try and combine those a little bit. And,
Yep.
and one thing is I figured when you hire somebody as an assistant or you bring somebody into your program, let them do their job, let them coach. And so, and I think that was the biggest thing, takeaway I learned from Coach Griggs. And there was so much more. He learned me how to. He made sure I knew how to use my time correctly, and made sure I knew how to. He made me. One of the greatest things he did for me during my 8 years is he made me coach a different position every year. And so by the time I was going to get an opportunity, I had a really good grasp of how to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, I know that's really key, because some guys, the older I get, the more we want people to specialize in one thing or another. And, it's truly important if you are going to be, the head of the ship, the head coach, you need to understand every position.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes if you haven't been in the trenches with those linemen or,
Right.
Been on the back end with those defensive backs or, in the running back and being the guy running the ball, you don't understand it all.
Right. It kept me on my toes, and I always had to be staying constant, going to clinics, making sure that I was on top of, he'd tell me at the end of the year, okay, next year you're going to coach D-backs, or next year you're going to coach D-ends. And I had to get on it and make sure, and he'd leave it up to me to find the drills and make sure that I was on it. So, and that will probably be the number one thing. He made me know a lot.
And, I remember back when I was a younger coach, and, I felt like almost I concentrated too much on the X's and O's and not enough on the kids.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way maybe looking back on your career and early in it? I felt like, almost I wanted to prove my knowledge, not necessarily.
Yeah. All of us when we're young, we want to show them that we know everything. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I think when I was coming up, kids wanted that relationship with coaches more, and now it doesn't seem as kids want that relationship, but not as much as back then, and so it's one of the things. I think there was a delicate balance, but it was. I do agree with you on that. It's one of those things that when you're first coming in, I have to show coach that I know my stuff, and then your relationship with the kids was always after.
Yeah. So I know once you took over and like I said, you've had an opportunity to win 3 state titles. Said you were a runner-up in another one, and you've had that success on the field. But how is it with your building those relationships? How did you go about starting to build those as you transitioned and took over the program?
Well, one of the things I just think, making sure I was honest with kids and always pretty much up front. I think, try to be genuine, and Coach and Gary, that kids see through you. If you're phony, if you're fake, they see right through you, and so trying to always be genuine and letting them know that, that you're there for them, because if you're not and you're in it for the wrong reasons, they're going to know. So, and that was definitely one of the main things that I tried to carry on, tried to always make sure, I wasn't telling them that they were going to be a superstar when, they weren't going to be a superstar. And I always thought that there was a place for every kid in our program. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a JV kid, whether you're a freshman, whatever, there's a place for you in the program, and there was always going to be a benefit for you in our program.
And I know some guys I've been around, struggle with making those freshmen and those JV kids feel just as important. But a guy who's done it, as successfully as you have, you really get like, hey, we need all these guys every day.
Yeah, and the one of the things that I just and I've never put another coach down because I know, but some people think the seniors, when they're a senior, they need to play. And one of the things that I've always just said, I'm going to try my best to make my seniors feel important, but you got 10 football games as opposed to 30 basketball games, and those 10 football games you got to figure out your guys. And I've always said we're going to play the best 11 no matter what. If you're an incoming freshman and you fight your tail off and you become one of the best 11, you're going to get an opportunity. Seniors are going to get that first look during the preseason.